Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Lisa Hanselman. I'm the director of the Mountaineer Parents Club here at West Virginia University. We're so glad to have all of you joining us tonight. If you would like to turn your cameras on, we would love to see you, but we totally understand if you're not comfortable with that. As long as you're here joining us, we're happy about that. So we're going to get started tonight. First, we have two fabulous people from the WVU Hub joining us. I'm going to have them introduce themselves right now. Let's start with George.
Hi, everyone. My name is George Yanchek. I'm the director of the WVU Hub. And I know we have folks from all over the place, so I just like to let everybody know I'm from a super small town in West Virginia by the name of Windsor Heights, population less than 400. And I do have my master's from WVU. So very happy that you can join us, and hopefully we'll be able to provide you with some great information.
Hi, everyone. I am Jackie Helen. I'm also a representative of the WVU Hub. I received both my bachelor's and master's here at WVU and joined the WVU Hub after teaching high school English for about 3 years.
Great. And as I said, my name's Lisa Hanselman. I also am a WVU alum twice over and the mom of 3 kids, including one who is currently a senior at WVU getting his degree in elementary education. So we're going to get started in just a second, but before we do, if you all wouldn't mind putting your student's full name into the chat, that way we can get everyone checked in and know that you've joined us tonight. We're going to start with our presentation, and afterwards we will be taking your questions. So be thinking about those questions while you're listening to our presentation. And with that, we will go ahead and get started.
Well, again, welcome everyone. I'm glad that you have decided to join us today to learn a little bit about the portal and how you as parents can utilize that. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is portal for students. And as we go to the next slide, you'll see last week we did get to talk about this, or a couple of weeks ago, to talk to students about how to accept financial aid on the portal. But the portal is going to be very key for the student, because on that portal, they're going to be able to find their degree works. They're going to see their financial aid information. They'll be able to access STAR, which is all of their student information where they can see their grades. Schedule Builder, which is where when registration time comes, they can schedule their classes and have that all set and ready to go. They'll check their mixed account emails there through WVU. If any student has any online courses or any courses that they're going to be turning in online, at their eCampus will be viewable there, as well as billing. So if we go to that next slide, you're going to see what the student side looks like. And that student side, you can see there, you can just click on the tabs to get to where you need to go. If you want to go straight to financial aid, you can click on that, or you can access it through the STAR program. You can also click on the pay your bill here to be able to go and view your bill and pay your charges there. Now, for parents, it's a little different. So when we talk about the parents guest portal, we want to talk about privacy. So as a student goes off to college, we have to follow FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And what that says is that as students progress on to college, and once they either move into residential housing or they register and start their first day of classes, we can only communicate with them. So it's very important that if you, the parent, want to get involved, it's going to take some access from the student. So we are not going to be able to release that information to you unless they have granted you what we call proxy access. So when we talk about that proxy access, if we go to the next slide, we see we're going to be talking about that WVU Parent and Guest Portal. Students are not permitted to share their information with you as the parent. So they can't give you their login and their access, because if you have that, you have access to everything that they are doing, their classes and everything. So WVU restricts that access so that the student has the access to their account only, but they can grant you certain parent guest access. So the student can go to Parent Guest Portal and set up an account for whomever the student would like to have access. It could be a parent, it could be a step parent, it can be a grandparent. It can be a spouse. It can even be a boyfriend or girlfriend if that's who the student chooses. But that information the student will be setting up, and it will allow us to know how we can communicate with that person. So if the person calls in, we can talk to them as long as they know the passphrase that has been given to the user. They can stop in the office again if they have the access or the information for the student as well as the password. We can talk to them. Same thing through tickets. If they send us emails, we can talk between emails as long as that information has been granted. Now, one thing we will not do is we will not discuss grades over the phone at all. We won't even discuss grades in person. The registrar's office has a strict guidance that we are not permitted to discuss grades. Grades are viewable, but we don't even know the grades as they're going throughout the semester. Now, on top of that access, that parent guest portal where the proxy can be added, if the student wants the parent to be able to pay the bill and view the bill, there is additional access that they would have to grant on the WVU My account. And it's for an authorized user. And again, that allows the authorized user to not only see the bill, but also be able to pay that. Now, parents can log in to the parent guest portal by going to parentguestportal.wvu.edu. You will enter your information in the email that was set up by the student. And then the PIN is actually whatever passcode or passphrase the student has assigned. Now, I'm going to say for parents right now, again, it's not very important because we can still talk to you without the parent guest portal access right now because they're still in high school. But once that student's in college, we get closer to July and August, we're going to start asking for that so you're accustomed to it. I would even recommend if you want to have it set up now to go ahead and have that access set up. But I would say for the parent, be near the student when they do that because the student can put in whatever they want. And we have seen everything and have had to hear passphrases that we probably shouldn't. Like one dad has to sing, "Baby got back." So be with the student when they're setting it up so you can say what passphrase you would like to be there. Now, once you log in and we go to that next slide and we look at the parent guest portal here, there's going to be some tabs there. So if we could advance the slide, please. I'm sorry. Okay, so you can see once you log in, you're going to see your profile. So you'll see the information about you, and then you're going to see the student's name. Now, let's say you have multiple students. You can see that I'm a Mountaineer is here. Let's say you have another student, and her name is Yura. So we have I'm a Mountaineer and you're a Mountaineer. You can choose which student you would like to see that information for. So again, it's going to be specific to whoever has that and which students are giving access to whom. When you log in and you click on that I'm a Mountaineer, the next thing you're going to see is you're going to see a listing on that portal. That menu is going to be the information that you may be able to see. The student will actually set up the access. So they will click buttons to say, I want my parent to see my account summary. I want my parent to see my financial aid. They may leave the grade part blank. So when you as the parent log in, and you click on the view account summary and you can see the account summary, and then you click on the financial aid and you can view the financial aid information. But then when you click on grades, it does not go. That means the student did not give you access. And again, that may be a discussion you would have to have with the student. But also on this page, just above this listing, is going to be a section about the WVU My account that we'll talk about a little later, but that's where you would access WVU My account. So let's say you click on the account summary by term. This is just going to show you the charges that have been listed and the payments that have already been made. So if you're expecting additional funding, let's say from like the VA or your financial aid that you know is coming in, it's just not finalized yet, you won't see that information listed on the account summary by term. But you will see actual charges that are there and any actual payments. If you want to see more detail of the bill, that's where the student's going to have to grant that additional access to the WVU My account so that you can then see the bill, print bills. And as I said, we'll talk about that and I'll show you what that's going to look like a little later. Now, the next thing we want to talk about, the next section down is financial aid. And you see there's a large number of listings of what you can see in financial aid. The first one that you'll see is the cost of attendance. I'm not sure if any of you were on last week or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, when we did show the student side and how to accept aid. Well, this is going to, again, show you a lot of the different financial aid aspects. The cost of attendance is always one we get questions about. Everyone believes that is the bill. It's not actually the bill. The cost of attendance now will break it down into more favorable billable and non-billable cost so that you can see what parts of the cost of attendance are what you're expecting to pay WVU or estimated to pay WVU, and then non-billable, which would be costs that may go to others. For example, if the student is living on campus, a freshman student is going to see under those billable cost of attendance, tuition and fees, and then they're going to see room and meals. But if that student's living off campus, you're going to see tuition and fees under billable, but the room and meals will be under the non-billable because WVU is not going to bill them. That's going to be coming from a landlord, and then they'll be choosing where they eat and how they pay that to the restaurant that they want or the grocery store. If you look at financial aid requirements, it's going to tell you anything that's missing from your financial aid file. So an example would be if you were getting a loan, but you did not complete the entrance counseling, that information would show as a requirement that you need to fulfill before financial aid can pay. Also, if you view the financial aid package, you're going to get to see a lot of information there. You will see the cost of attendance. You're going to see the financial aid that's been offered. You will be able to accept it there. You'll be able to see any scholarships that you have told us from outside resources or from outside areas. And you'll also be able to see other resources such as private scholarships, private loans, and vocational rehabilitation. As we move down a little farther, you'll see the next section, which talks about grades, scheduling, and transcripts. And again, as long as the student has given you this access, you will be able to access any midterm grades that the student has. And those come up about 8 weeks into the semester. There will be some early alerts if in 4 weeks in even where students will get grades if they have a D or an F so that they know where their standing is at that time of the semester. And then the final grades will post at the end of the semester. And it's not immediately. It may take a few days after classes end. If they end on a Friday, usually it won't be until Wednesday that you would be able to view those final grades. You will also be able to see any holds. So if the student has a balance due, or if they have maybe parking tickets that are keeping them from being registered, you'll be able to see any holds that the student may have that could prevent registration. The next thing we want to talk about, I mentioned the WVU My account. And again, this has authorized users that is above and beyond what is in the parent guest portal. So again, if the student wants to set up an authorized user, this will allow the parent or the guardian or the relative who has that access to be able to go in and view have a more detailed view of the account. There are instructions if the student needs detailed instructions on how to grant that access. That is available. You can go to our studentaccounts.wvu.edu site and go under the tutorials. And again, there will be detailed directions on how to go and grant that additional access for the bill. Now, when an authorized user is set up, there's 2 emails that go out. One that goes to the person who has been granted the access so that they'll get the username and a link. Then you'll have to click on that link to go and finalize that access. Now, if you wait longer than 24 hours, that's going to expire and the student will have to set that up again. The next page that I'm going to show you is what the bill is actually going to look like, or what WVU My account is going to look like. And again, it's much improved over what we've had in the past. So you can see that you have the option to have a payment profile. So you can set up either a credit card, you could set up a checking account so that the funds will always come out of that account. The great news is that is going to be private to you. So your student will not be able to see the credit card number that's in there. They would not be able to see the checking account number that you've assigned. to pay the bill from. That is going to be for you to view only. And once you put that in there, again, it's not going to have all of the information. It's going to give those last 4 digits, but the student cannot access that. We've also made some improvements. So you can see this blue box that talks about paying your rent or parking or electric. That's really not for incoming freshmen, but for students who are living in apartments that are billed through WVU. We've had instances where you want to pay that on a monthly basis, but you have another payment plan also. So this will allow you to say, I want to pay this specific charge, and it has worked out very well for our students. And you can see the overview right here of the balance and how estimated financial aid will show here and what the ending balance would be after we've looked at all of the charges and the financial aid coming in. Now, you can click on the account and you can see additional information. So if we go to the account activity, the next slide, you can see that you can choose the semester that you would like to view. You can see the estimated financial aid would be listed. For example, in this case, this person set up a payment plan, and it's saying that there is payment plan funding coming for the semester of another $8,800. If we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see that the bill can be broken down. Then it's going to show you the account details. So you'll see how much of the tuition payment plan has been paid already. You can see that there were 2 loans, for example, in this case where they're anticipated to come in, but they haven't paid yet. And then you can see all of the charges. So the fees, the tuition for the college, as well as the tuition for the university. And the online support fee means this person has a class online. So you can see all of the charges. If there is additional charges on there, you can click on that caret or arrow to get more detailed information. Again, in the bill, it's going to show you the total, what credits you have coming in, that balance that's coming in. But as you remember, we had an additional amount coming. So it's going to show this person has a 0 balance due for that term or the semester. The next thing we want to talk about for the bill is, this is another great thing that we could do. In the past, we've sent statements out monthly at the beginning of each month. So once we send that statement out, if any new charge goes on, that bill is now obsolete and you would have to wait until the next month. Well, with this My Account, the great thing about this is you as the parent and or the student, you can do an on-demand statement at any time that you want. And once you do that on-demand statement, it will stay there. You will be able to have that there on your account. We notify you once a month to check the bill if there are new charges. At that point, you can log in, you can hit that on-demand statement so that you can see what changes occurred for the account. This is great when you need to have, if you're having your company reimburse you for payments. Sometimes a scholarship organization will want to see the bill. Maybe your 529 plan will want to have a copy of the bill so they can see what educational charges are on there. So this is great because you won't have to contact us on the phone to ask for us to mail that. You can do that on demand at any time that you may need that statement. And again, this is something that has been very positive this year. The parents have really liked the fact they can do this at their leisure. Also, as we go to the next one, you can see the pay by term. So you can pay by the semester. I showed you how you could pay a specific charge on your account. But again, you could pay the bill on this account by going to the pay by term. You'll place the number of the charges that you want in there. Now, you can't overpay. This system will not allow you to pay $10,000 for an $8,000 bill, because again, it will not allow you to get a refund off of that. And then lastly, as you can see, when we look at how you can make that payment, when you put the dollar amount in, hit continue, it'll take you to the next slide, please. And it'll bring up the payment method. So you could click on that drop-down box. And let's say that you had your credit card already stored in there. You can click on the credit card that's stored or the checking account that's stored, or you can make a new account to make that payment at that time as a one-time only payment. So again, this is a really good access for the parents, but again, it's something the student would have to grant so that you can pay. Last thing we want to talk about is communication. Again, the communication is going to be the key here. again, for parents, unfortunately, we aren't able to email you directly the information. So it's very important for students to go in and check their email daily. I always tell this story. I've coached college baseball for over 20 years. And during every practice session that I had, the first thing I did when I talked to the team was to ask them if they got any emails from the school, because that's how you find out if there is a bill, if it's time to file a financial aid form. So the student is going to have that directed to the Mix account. It's going to come from the WVU Hub. Anything that comes from the WVU Hub is going to be very important, and it's usually very timely. The student can actually have that Mix account transferred to their Gmail or Hotmail or wherever they want. It's just that they want to make sure that they check the account regularly to look for information that's been sent from WVU. And again, I'm specifically talking for the Hub. Now, you can also have communication with our WVU Hub through Team Dynamics. And it's an email type system, but it allows us to track all of our communications. So anytime you call in or stop in or send this ticket email, we will have record of all of our conversations to protect you and us, to make sure we're giving up the best information. Now you can follow us on social media. So we do have a Twitter account, Facebook page, and Instagram. We will put any important information out there, any updates to any scholarships that we may know about. Again, when it's time for registration, when it's time to file the FAFSA, you can find all of that information there. And then the last page that we have is all of our contact information. So anytime you want to send information to us, for example, for scholarships, if you have a scholarship check that's coming in from a provider and they're going to mail it in, then you want to use our PO box. But if they're going to overnight it, most 529 companies will send that through a overnight express mail. Then you want to use our location address of 62 Morrill Way. Again, there is our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram sites. You can reach us Monday through Friday from 8:15 to 4:45 by contacting us on phone. Our online assistance, that email system I talked about, that's open 24/7. So, and we actually have staff working through the night to make sure that we are answering our tickets as quickly as we can. So utilize our services. If you have any questions, please let us know. Hopefully, I have given you a lot of information that you were able to digest, but if not, I'm going to open this up, give this back to Lisa, and then we will start taking some questions.
Okay, wasn't that fantastic? Now, if you still have questions, which I'm guessing a couple of you do, that's fantastic too. We would love to help answer those. So if you want to put your questions in the chat right now, we'll go ahead and read those aloud and have George and Jackie share the answers. And if you joined us a little bit late, if you don't mind, please put your student's full name into the chat so we can get everyone checked in for this evening's event. Okay. So now comes the good part, waiting on your questions. Okay, in the meantime, as we're waiting for a question to come in, George, how about anything else you'd like to add while we're waiting?
Well, I'm assuming that most of the folks here have already signed up for the parents newsletter that will be coming out. It's on that parent guest portal. So if you haven't done that, that is a great way for parents to get the same information that students are getting, because the Parents Club does a great job of sending out at least two newsletters a month, sometimes more. If there's something special that's going to occur, I know they will send out another email, but it tells you, it may not give you the specifics to say, hey, your bill is this, but it's going to say, hey, bills have come out, or it's time to file the financial aid form. And I know that the communication doesn't always work. I know Lisa said that she has students say at WVU. I have a son that's a sophomore right now, and I have one that's it will be an incoming freshman. So I understand they get very busy and they forget to tell you that the bill we've been telling them about for 3 months is due tomorrow. So again, that parents newsletter is always very helpful because you can go and read what's really happening.
Well, I couldn't do any better of plugging the Mountaineer Parents Club than that, but we did drop the link in the chat for the Mountaineer Parents Club, so do consider joining. As George said, we send those emails out twice a month, and they're full of lots of really good information. And if you're on our Facebook page, that's great, but you still need to join the club to get those emails. But now we have our first question. Okay, so might be a little off topic, they say, but how could someone gain residency? My daughter read somewhere, you just have to live in West Virginia for 30 days. Oh, that's not true. George?
Well, I could take that. Now, for residency, it's going to be based upon your admission application and what school you graduated at and where you're from. And that will determine whether you're a resident or non-resident. You can do an appeal. However, to become a resident, there is a pretty lengthy list. Number one, you have to be in the state of West Virginia for a year. You have to be able to provide your mortgage or a lease that's going to show that you were here. And you can't just come to West Virginia to go to school. So if you came here and lived here for a year, even though you may change your driver's license, if you're still attending nonstop at our university, you would not be approved for that residency change for the most part. Again, the best thing to do is contact admissions. But again, you would have to live here for a year, have a driver's license, have a voter registration card, be paying taxes, have a mortgage or a lease that you could show that you've been living at. And again, once you start your enrollment at WVU, the only way you could stop out to do that is if you left school for a year, not taking any classes, and then doing what I just said, living here for a year, paying taxes, driver's license, voter registration. But the residency is handled through our admission office.
Thank you. And Jackie put that in the link. So next question. Once we're in the WVU portal, we click on my account. Once we have bills due, we will see bill pay. Is that correct? Because of course, right now, there's no net balance for these families.
That's correct. We cannot charge a student for tuition and fees until students have registered for classes. So in order for us to assess tuition and fees, as well as dining and housing for students who are living on campus, we can't do that until after new student orientation has occurred. So typically fall bills are available around the first week of July every year and are going to be due August 1st. When it comes to the spring term, bills are typically due or available around the week of Thanksgiving and are going to be due not typically January 1st because that's a holiday, but January 2nd or 3rd, depending on how the holiday's set up. But that's correct. You're not going to see a bill due until after registration has occurred. So one thing to keep in mind is your students are registering for new student orientation is to make sure that you get registered and that you get your course schedule taken care of after completing the orientation portal. That way you have a bill in order to prepare and pay for that as soon as possible.
Thank you. And if you have questions about new student orientation, please know that your students will begin getting that information soon. We'll start opening all of that up closer to March. And orientation will actually be done both, a portion of it will be virtual and a portion of it will be in person. And all of that information will be sent out much later. And if you are a member of the Mountaineer Parents Club, we'll make sure you get that information from us as well. So it's nothing you need to worry about now. But as Jackie said, bills won't come out until after that is complete. Okay, next question. My student has paid the academic and housing deposit, but we don't see that on the portal. So when does that show up?
Well, that's a great question. If you have paid, the way you can tell that this has been received, if you paid the academic deposit, that's going to allow you to register for housing. So when you do the housing deposit, then you can sign up for your preference for housing, and that will be in as a deposit, but you will not see it released until charges are assessed in July. After that, we will release that because that deposit then reduces your bill for the fall semester. And you'll see that your housing deposit and academic deposit will show on that bill at that time, but it won't show for quite some time. But if you were able to select a residence hall, then that means you did turn in your housing deposit, or you worked with housing and somehow it may have been waived.
Okay, so back to the question that we had earlier, the same parent has a question about the portal also says they're not enrolled in the payment plan. Thanks for sharing that the enrollment for payment plans are, for later after orientation, but maybe we could just go through one more time about the payment plan and how and when families can sign up.
So typically the fall payment plan is going to be available end of April, beginning of May, for up to 6 months of a monthly payment plan. It typically opens the beginning of April. And so basically at that point, because the bills are not due, you can actually set up a payment plan using that financial aid cost of attendance in your financial aid offer. So random number, say your cost of attendance is $20,000 for the year and you have $15,000 of financial aid. So you have a difference of $5,000 to make up when you're taking a look at the tuition and fees, housing and dining if you're living on campus. So this is not including any of the indirect costs like transportation, books and supplies, because we're not charging you for that. So assuming that your cost of attendance for direct charges for tuition, fees, housing and dining equal $20,000 and you have $15,000 of financial aid for that $5,000 difference. So you know that you generally have like $2,500 due for fall, $2,500 due for spring. You can go ahead and set up a payment plan using that estimate so that you can split that up into more months. And then once the bill is available in July, you can actually go in and update that to make it an exact dollar amount based off of, housing changes or meal plan changes, or if you've made changes to your course schedule that affect your bill. That way you can spread it across more months, make it a little bit more manageable if you choose to pay out of pocket, and use that estimate first and then go back in and change that. And I will also plug is, say you're trying to make up that $5,000 difference and you can mix and match. Like students can choose to get like a private loan or go for another loan type of option, and say, I can afford $1,000 over the course of the fall and spring semester. So you can mix and match and put those together. So that way you can reduce your loan debt while paying a little bit out of pocket, because, it adds up and it makes a big difference in the long run. But you would have to set it up using an estimate and update it later. And then once you set that up, it will reflect on the bill once we have those in there and they're available.
Thank you very much. Oh, okay. So we have a question about whether the recording of this and the other webinars that we have done will be available. Tech support, they will be on the Mountaineer Parents Club website, correct?
Yes, you'll be able to find them on our website. We do have those currently. I'll put that in the chat. This one will be available sometime next week on our website or our Facebook page.
Sorry about that. To get parent proxy access, is there only one location the student needs to do this with the hub?
That's a great question. So to get access for any of student services, yes, you just go to Parent Guest Portal. The student will set that information up for any person that they want to have. Again, it can be the parent, it can be the grandparent. As I said, it can be whoever they choose. And then that person goes to Parent Guest Portal to log in. And at that point, we will be able to discuss anything that's related to financial aid, again, student accounts, the registrar. One thing we can't talk about again is grades at all over the phone or in person with the parent. But that does not give you access to call an advisor. It doesn't give you access to call a professor and discuss the student's information. That is totally different. I have to admit, ignorance on this, I'm not even sure if that's allowable. If there is anything that you could do with a professor, if the student gave you access to discuss that with them. But this would be for anything that is WVU hub related. And again, that's for the offices that we work with, which are financial aid, student accounts, revenue management, scholarship, federal work study employment, and OUR, the registrar's office, including scheduling.
So yes, parent proxy access could possibly give you permission to speak with an advisor if the advisor and your student agreed to that. Faculty wouldn't very likely talk to you anyway. They would talk to your student. So one of those little differences between college and high school. Okay, this is a question about, can you repeat when the fall payment is due? Jackie did put that in the chat, but just for the benefit of all of us, Jackie, go through that one more time.
Yes, so fall bills will be available early July, due August 1st. Spring bills will be available late November and due the 1st of January-ish because of the holiday.
Perfect. Okay, about those deposits, are there two separate deposits or just one?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute there. So there are two different deposits. There is an academic deposit, and that's when you are saying that you want to come to WVU. And once you make that deposit, again, that'll stay on file until the bill is released in July, and then the deposit will show as a payment on the account. Now, if you are going to be staying in housing, so if you're required to live in housing, as all freshmen are, unless you have an exemption, then you would be required to pay a housing deposit so that you could then choose residence hall you would prefer to be in. Again, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be in that residence hall, but it allows you to choose the option that you would best prefer and then give backups. But there are two different deposits. Both of those deposits would be released as payment towards that fall bill. That's why we get a lot of questions about, why is the spring bill a little bit different than the fall bill? We did everything the same. Well, it's because the fall deposits were subtracted, that academic and the housing deposits from the bill, because those go, again, those deposits are released at that time.
Okay, so the next question is, when does scheduling start?
So scheduling for incoming freshmen is going to be part of the orientation process. So all students need to be on the lookout in their mixed emails for information on how that will go about. Typically, the way that we've handled it the last couple of years with the virtual hybrid kind of mix is that once the students complete the orientation platform, so as soon as that opens, you want to make sure you take care of that and thoroughly read all of the information in there. And parents can also complete the portal as a guest as well. So if you want to know what type of information your student is getting through the orientation process, you can also complete it. But once you complete that portal, that's when you'll get information on setting up appointments with your academic advisors, as well as the on-campus portion as well. That way you can come and visit us and do all the fun things that Lisa and the other new student orientation program sets up for students in order to come love WVU as much as we do.
I like that answer. Okay, so currently this question is, my son is logged into the WVU Portal account, but we aren't seeing the My Profile setup or the Authorized User button. Is that because the Pay Your Bill button is not active yet?
Yes. Again, the My Account, you will not be able to see anything on there until you actually have an account. So it's going to be a little while before you'll be able to set that part up. Again, and again, I guess maybe I should even defer to Jackie, because I know she's spent a lot of time developing that. But at this point, there won't be anything out there for an incoming freshman.
Yeah, so essentially what you're looking at is that all incoming students for the fall semester currently have what's called the admit portal. So you're not a student yet. So until like registration starts happening for the fall semester, you won't see the student portal in order to gain access to all the additional information. So just kind of keep in mind, and we will remind you all the way through May, June, and July to make sure that your students grant you proxy as well as add you as an authorized user. So just put it on your calendar, you know, around the 1st of July to have your student also add you as an authorized user on their bill as well.
Okay, so this question is, when is the academic deposit due? Do one of you?
Well, that is a great question. because it's due whenever really you decide you are coming to WVU. So once you have made that commitment and you put in that academic deposit, that allows you to go to the next step. As I said, once you have committed to WVU, then you can choose what housing you would like, or put in the preference, I should say, because you may not get your first preference, you may get a second preference. But again, there is an opportunity if you committed right now and you send in that deposit, there is an opportunity to receive that back if you change your mind. But once we pass the deadline for the deposit return, then you would not be eligible to receive the deposit back. So again, once you know you're coming to WVU, you can submit that and then you can start the housing process.
And let me add to that currently students are choosing their housing. Housing has been open since October. But at the end of February, on February 28th, self-selection will end. And that means that your student after that date will not be allowed to go in and choose their own hall and room. Your student will just be able to give us top 3 choices. And if there is any room available in one of those top 3, we will put them into that room. And if not, we'll figure out where they can go at this point. If your student got into some housing they didn't necessarily want, they can kind of get on a wait list and see, but self-selection does end at the end of the month, and that's important to note. Okay. Oh. Okay. So the admission deposit allows you to sign up for housing, and when do you pay the housing deposit?
So once you pay the academic deposit or the admissions deposit, those two terms are kind of interchangeably used depending on what university you go to. So essentially about 48 hours after you pay the academic deposit, that's when the housing application opens. I know Lisa's light turned off and it just confused me a little bit. But yes, after you pay the academic deposit, around 24 hours later, the housing application opens. And you actually pay the housing deposit as part of the housing application.
Thank you. I apologize for my light. It times out after a certain amount of time. So we're still taking questions in the chat. And if anybody has other questions, we would love to be able to answer those for you tonight. We're kind of at the end of the ones we have so far. Oh, thank you to Christine. In my account, in the deposit history window, my academic deposit is posted there, but the housing deposit is not. Should it be listed in this location?
So the housing deposit is paid through the housing application, so it's a separate system. So it won't show up in your deposits in the WVU My account because it wasn't paid through the WVU My account. But as long as you paid it, once the bill is available, it will still release to the bill and you'll see that as a payment accredited towards the charges for the fall semester. And I will kind of add to, I know George talked a lot about and showed you some screenshots while we're waiting for some extra questions here, just to kind of give all the parents and the guests who are with us today. So the parent guest portal is actually pending an update as well. So if you were with us with the last Parents Club presentation, we showed you some screenshots of what the student portal looks like and how to accept and review their financial aid information. And you'll notice that there's a visual difference between those two systems. The parent portal is going to be getting an update. So while it'll still function pretty much the same, you'll see some visual changes at some point, hopefully this fall, and be active by spring. I'm really excited about it. It's been a lot of work and a lot of testing.
Thank you. Okay, so we're still waiting on a couple questions. So ask us anything that you like. In the meantime, I can tell you that we do have some more webinars coming up. We're going to do one with housing next week. And then in April, we have another session with our fine folks at the WVU Hub and an additional housing section. So please sign up and join us for those. Okay, question. If the student, so for my student to sign up for the student portal, he needs to go to portal.wvu.edu. And then what does he need to do?
Okay, well, there are detailed instructions there also. There's actually a video to show exactly how to set that information up and how to set it up for multiple persons. But again, without being able to pull up and show you, it's hard to explain everything that would need to be done. But again, when the student logs in, they'll be able to state who they want to have that access. It's going to ask for a passcode. For example, when my son did that, I got an email that said, "Hey, you have been granted this access." I just had to go in and verify myself and information. And then at that point, I was able to log in with the password that he gave to me. And luckily, he gave me a very good passcode. It was, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. But he was very kind to me. So like I said, just be careful when your son or daughter goes to do that. Just be around.
I get that. My son's code is a character from our favorite movie, thank goodness. Okay, next up, just to confirm, when should a student give access to the parent portal?
Well, again, we must have it. If you are going to call and ask questions to the WVU Hub, we must have it the day that they either move into residence hall or into residential housing, or they start their classes. That's when we are required to start asking. Up until that point, now I would recommend doing it a little earlier, maybe over the summer, just so you get accustomed to it. Because our staff, when a parent calls in, we may be asking, even though it's an incoming freshman and they haven't started their classes yet, we may be asking because we are answering calls for every student, upperclassmen, underclassmen, prospective students, folks who are just considering WVU. So we may ask for that access, even though it may not be required at that time. So again, I would recommend in June, July would be a great time to set it up, just so you get used to it. And in case our staff is asking, but if it is an incoming freshman, it hasn't been set up, and our staff does ask, they're pretty good at checking to make sure that we're talking to an upperclassman or a freshman. But if it is an incoming freshman, you can say, well, he hasn't started classes yet, and then we would be able to give you that information.
And I agree, set it up as at least by summer so that you can acquaint yourself with how to use it. It's a lot easier that way. Okay, so this is a very good question.
Mhm.
If you make your tuition payments through a credit card, are there any additional fees with that payment type?
Yes, there are. So regardless of whether or not it's a credit card or a debit card, any type of card transaction has a 2.25% service fee attached to it. Or wait, that went up, George. The 2.85. Yeah, sorry. I've been here too long, not too many changes. But yeah, it's 2.85% service fee. So the way to avoid that would be to pay with a check. And you can actually do that electronically as well. So in the WVU My account, there's an option to pay with a card or with a checking account. You will want to make sure that it's a checking account as opposed to a savings account. While some banks will allow an electronic withdrawal with a savings account, most of them do not. So use a checking account, and all you need is your routing number and your account number, and it processes the same way as a paper check. It's just that you're entering that information electronically, and that helps you avoid the 2.85% service fee. And it does remind you on there too that there's a service fee attached to that when you go to make the payment.
Okay, next question. Well, I guess it's a little bit more for tech support and I. Are you able to give more details about the webinar on February 15th? Here, I can see that you're interested in the meal plans and things like that. So the February 15th webinar will be all about after you've chosen your residence hall. As it says here, you can explore dining options and what to expect while you're on campus. So that would be a great time for you to tune in. You'll be able to ask questions of the housing folks and the dining folks. And they will go through the differences. Dining plans work only in the 3 dining halls. dining dollars or the extra dollars that come with the meal plan that you can use at any of the retail operations across campus. And Mountie Bounty is like a debit plan where you put the money in and your student can use that for laundry and printing specifically, but anything else on or off campus at a lot of locations. So please join us next week if you can. I think that you'll get a lot out of it, but we're going to record that one too if you can't join us. Okay, if you are in the payment plan, do you have to use a credit card?
So regardless of whether or not you're making direct payments to the WVU My account, or whether or not you have signed up for a monthly payment plan, you still have the choice of making a card payment or a check payment. That's true regardless of whether or not you're paying in full or paying in installments.
And you also have the ability to set up as an automatic pay. So you don't have to do it each month. You can have it automatically set up to have those funds taken from either account.
Okay, should students already be set up in the portal or do they need to do that themselves?
So students do have to claim their account in order to access the admit portal and pay their academic deposit. Those instructions are sent with their admissions packet information. So you'll want to make sure that you check that and follow the steps to make sure that the student has claimed their account to be able to access the portal.
Thank you. Okay, so we're coming down for a tour next week. Can we go into buildings and dining halls, etc.? If you're coming down and doing an actual tour through our visitor center, they will definitely take you to different areas, and including a couple of buildings. You'll go past a dining hall or two and see the residence halls. On your own, you can walk into most buildings and see the residence halls and the sample room, and probably walk by a dining hall if you like, but it's a lot better to do it on the tour so that they can explain everything to you as you go through.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you could actually choose to pay to go to a dining hall as well. And going into the halls, I think right now, I think just to be aware, I think I believe are required still to wear a mask inside buildings right now. So, but yeah, you can go into the resident to the dining services and eat at any of our dining halls.
Absolutely. Our dining halls not only take the meal plan, but you could pay in cash or swipe your credit card. And as George said, we do have a mask mandate in classrooms, and most of our residence halls and other buildings have classroom space, so they're considered the academic buildings as well. Okay, so how much is that academic deposit?
Okay, I'm going to have to, I'm drawing a blank on that. Is it 125 and 250?
150 and 250.
I was close.
Yeah. So if you were a West Virginia resident, it's 150. If you are a non-resident of West Virginia, then it is 250. And then the housing deposit is 225 for all students.
Perfect. Okay, my student has a student loan award or maybe a scholarship, and the organization wants to pay directly to WVU. How does that work?
So as I said, I gave you our address on the last page, but we can get that for you if you'd like. But you could just have them send the payment with the student's name and the WVU ID, just so we can make sure we are crediting the correct person in case there are students with the same name. Do not have them put a social security number on there, though. We do not want to see a social security number anywhere because that is, as you know, not a good thing. But again, you can have that sent if it's going to be mailed to us to the WVU Hub at PO Box 6004, Morgantown, West Virginia, 26501. If it's going to be overnight mail, then that's where you would want to use our physical address of 62 Morrill Way in Morgantown, West Virginia.
And I dropped this in the chat, but it's our mailing out for information, regardless of whether or not you're sending it, regular mail, USPS, or overnighting it, is always at the bottom of our website. You just go to hub.wvu.edu and just scroll right to the bottom, or just Google WVU Hub. I'm a Google queen and I love to use it. Just scroll all the way to the bottom. That information is there for you, so you don't have to worry about writing it down and keeping it somewhere. You can always just look us up.
Perfect. Thank you, Jackie. To enter the dorms and the dining halls, do you knock? So actually, sir, the residence halls are open during the day because, again, a lot of them have classroom space. And to be on that first floor, you can just walk in and go straight to the desk and they will direct you from there. All right, any other questions out there, folks? We have time to answer if you have any others. And we're having a good time, I think, so maybe we want to keep this going and answer a few more of your questions. In the meantime, I will continue to ask you all to join the Mountaineer Parents Club and get all of our info, because I think it will help as you get past this year. This year, you have a lot of questions that are really specific to incoming students, but beyond that, you'll still have a lot of questions, but we'll answer them in a different way. And we'll do that through the Mountaineer Parents Club and through our email. So please do join us. Okay. Oh, and please don't apologize for all the questions. That's why we're here. We love answering them and we love talking to our families. So tech support is very kindly also putting in the chat right now our Facebook pages through the Mountaineer Parents Club. So we have the WVU Mountaineer Parents Club Facebook page, and that's where we're going to answer some questions, but mostly we give you a lot of information. We have contests and we share all things WVU. And also we have our Facebook page, for the class of 2026. That's for our incoming freshman families, and we share information that is very important to you all. You can ask questions of us, questions of each other, and we'll share all that. If we do approve the questions and answer them as best we can, it might take a day or two occasionally, since it is just tech support and myself who answer most of those, but just bear with us and put those up and we'll be sure that we get to that for you. Okay, let's see, one more. Oh, what's the deal with the new student adventure first year trip? So Adventure West Virginia trips. Either of you want to grab that, or shall we just do it together?
I think that Lisa has probably got the best answer.
Yeah, I mean, they've been so scarce in how they've done them. I honestly am not up to par on those with COVID the last couple of years.
So Adventure West Virginia is a fantastic program here at WVU. It's where your student has the opportunity to do a trip. It can be mostly they're 5 to 6 day trips. Your student can sign up for one of 3 different kinds. So some trips will include backpacking, whitewater rafting, hiking, all sorts of outdoor activities. You can see on their website what the trips are like. Tech support just put that in the chat for us. There is a nominal fee of $95 for this trip because we have a grant funding the rest of that cost for us. But it's a fantastic way for students to come back. They're in the summer. They're usually June, July, and parts of August. Your student's going to be able to make new friends, learn about WVU traditions, and really disconnect from the world and just focus on themselves and the outdoors in this trip for those few days, because phones are not permitted. But it is a great way to meet new people and make friends before your students come back to campus. So check that out. And honestly, we would really, your students get a lot out of it. They could even sign up and get college credit for it if they choose to. I have 2 boys that have come through WVU. One did it and loved it. One opted out, but that's their personalities as well. They made a lot of friends and really enjoyed it. So check that one out. Oh, let's see. This question is about the Distinguished Scholars event. Can I get some details on what that's like and how many will attend? I'll tell you what, if you want to email us at parentsclub@mail.wvu.edu, we'll be happy to answer your Distinguished Scholar questions. I think it'll be easier there.
I will tell you that I was there at the first one, and I think this is the new format this year, and it worked out excellently. It had a lot of positive input, and it was a very well run event.
It really was a nice event in January, so I'm sure February will be fantastic too. All right, so about when does the fall semester start? Because we have not released move-in information yet. We don't have that yet, so. Let's see. Tech support, you got that date in there? I don't want to misspeak. I think it's earlier than I realized.
I just did a quick Google. I told you I'm the Google queen. So August 17th will be the on-campus first day of classes for the fall 2022 semester. And I'm going to drop in the link to the academic calendar in the chat as well. That way you can see all the important dates for academic purposes.
Perfect, thank you. And when is new student orientation usually?
So I do know that new student orientation registration is opening on March 1st. And once you register for orientation, that's when the student will get the emails to complete the online portal, which has all the information and stuff. I think that doesn't typically open until May 1st. So they'll definitely want to keep an eye on their mixed email and then the additional events that come with orientation that will occur through the month of May and June will happen based off of that information that they're provided when they complete their activities.
So I will step in as tech support here because I actually do the communication plans for new student orientation. Your student will be receiving their save the date within the next couple of weeks. Those will start going out next week. And then you can start registering for your portal after March 1. You can keep an eye on that with the orientation website, and I'll pop that into the chat as well. Just to reiterate though, that is the your student will not meet with their advisor until May, June. They have to complete the portal first, and then their advisor will schedule a virtual one-on-one appointment with them.
Thank you very much, tech support. Okay, well, that's about all the questions that we have today. So again, thank you for joining us. We are always available to answer your questions. You can email the hub, you can email us at Mountaineer Parents Club, and we really do appreciate having everyone join us. Oh, we have one more for live orientation. Will there be opportunities for regional meet and greets? Really, at this point for orientation, students will just have the opportunity to meet each other in large groups, as well as the parents. So if you do live in an area that has an active Mountaineer Parents Club, we can have a summer send-off in that area. So another great reason to join the Mountaineer Parents Club. Thank you all so much. Reach out to us for anything that you need, and we're happy to answer that. And have a lovely evening. Good night.